And of course the 8 teams going into the draw of course are East Kerry, Mid Kerry, Rathmore, Dingle, Temple, Spa, St. Cairns and Gale. Were you at any of those games at the weekend? Maybe get around and send in a quick old comment. Delighted, as I said, to have Liam and John. They're all dressed up tonight actually. No cheap jackets tonight, lads. Nice shirts.
No sponsors on them, right?
They'll fade away into the background fairly quickly. We're getting to the business end. Obviously we know our quarterfinals, but we'll keep the show the way it always is. We'll stick with Group 1. East Kerry, Temple, Liam. Everybody said East Kerry were going to win it, and they did really, didn't they? But to be fair, Temple got a lot out of this game, I would imagine.
They did, Donal. Look, I suppose it was a real contest up to the 66th minute. It was 1-9 to 9 points. I suppose the goal was the big bearing in the game from Patrick Darcy, who is another player who really has impressed me in the last couple of games. A good working centre forward. Played even against West Kerry. It was very lively. Kicked his few points. But yeah, look, East Kerry are where we all think they were going to be, and they're probably I know they're still in first gear.
Yeah.
And the 2 boys made the appearance towards the end, so it'll be, I suppose things will be ramping up now. We're at quarter-final stage, so it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, they got their win. It's interesting you mentioned Patrick Darcy, because I suppose in many ways the East Kerry management have got to look at, we'll say, the players that mightn't have been in the starting 15 at the start. When you take out maybe 3 or 4 of the marquee players, you need guys to go in, but he's done quite a good job.
Yeah, and you've got to give credit to the East Kerry management as well. I know we all know the pool of players that they have, but sometimes it can be a lot harder to manage a very good team than it is an average team. And look, they've lost Spa down through the years. They've lost Rathmore last year, and they seem to be replacing guys. The likes of Matt Rainey's coming in, he's doing a job. Patrick is doing a job. All these guys. So yeah, look, they're a formidable district team at the moment. But you've got to give credit to Temple. Like I said, up to the 66th minute, they were hell for leather with him without Adrian Spillane.
Yeah.
So
hell for leather. I watched the game. It was a bit. It was a game, and it lacked for me the intensity of a championship game. I mean, obviously there were 2 sides at the top end. They were going through. I suppose in many ways, what impressed me with Temple was that they were able to contain East Kerry for long stages. I mean, 113 isn't a frightening score to concede, and they were still kind of involved at the latter end of the game as well.
Exactly, like I said, the goal was the big difference. So I think any team that'll draw Temple won't have anything easy in the quarter final. Now you've all the Crowleys there. Hopefully they'll probably have Adrian back. Now Killian is our marquee forward up front. Every club would love to have a marquee forward like Killian. He'll score for you.
Yeah.
So you have Morley and these guys, Stephen O'Sullivan. So there's a tough game there for someone with Temple. Yes.
And they have their own Tom Sullivan in Mark Casey.
Oh, they have,
cornerback.
Another guy that's really after putting his head above the pulpit as well. So yeah,
there's enough there. Right, so that was easy enough, wasn't it? 113 to 12 points. John, I have a lot of comments about the next game. I'm not going to go through the whole lot of them because we'll be here with a while. Obviously the second game of the group didn't go ahead. West Kerry, South Kerry, we mentioned last week that they were too proud, I suppose, districts, and they were going to go head to head, and people said it was a dead rubber of a game. It's disappointing.
Yeah, it's disappointing, Donald. When you just can't feel it's disappointing. It was a game of no consequence, I suppose, playing for pride. And we spoke last week about Lisbol hosting the previous round and the pride in that. But look, teams that don't take those decisions lightly. Obviously, they hadn't a team for one reason or another. It was disappointing for South Kerry, because it was their first home game, and it was always great to have a game down in the south, to finish off and get 2 points on the board for either team. But look, unfortunate, West Kerry are a proud district. A lot of inter-county players, Donal, in that West Kerry over the last number of years. At minor, under 21, senior and junior. So it's about recircling the wagons again. There's a lot of talk about the format of the county championship. There's a lot of talk about maybe the 2 losers and the 2 winners meet in the second round, which might cut out this dead rubber. But look, unfortunate, and it's been a medium of conversation since the news broke. But look, this moves on. West Kerry will regroup, and I've no doubt they'll come back bigger and better than ever. It's not too long ago since East Kerry were in a similar position. It goes in phases. There's always a reason, and there's great people involved. I've no doubt they'll come back. But for South Kerry, disappointing that they hadn't the home game.
Yeah, and Kinmare District a couple of years ago didn't travel back to West Kerry for a Dingle game, and I suppose last year, to be fair, your buddies out there in St. Kieran's and your buddies over there in Shannon kind of skirted around it. They completed the fixture, but maybe not with the strongest team and the whole lot. It might actually ask bigger questions about the championship and the whole lot, and we might ask those questions later on. We might have a couple of solutions for it. The shock of the week in Group 2, was it the shock of the week? Rathmore went down to Kinmare and they turned them over fairly comfortably.
Yeah, we knew it was going to be close, but I said last week I thought the home venue might just shade Kilmare. But I do think probably this is the 8th week in a row, probably have to catch up with Kilmare. No,
it's kind of understandable that club sides with a limited enough panel will get tired and I mean week after week, and every game seems to be a must-win game, and they have to keep the temperature hot for every game, and really with a club, I mean, all you need is one occasion where you're not hot and you can get caught.
Yeah, and your marquee player then, which is Shawnee Shea, so you'll keep looking at him for the 8 weeks to produce. And to be fair to him, himself and Paul Murphy had a good old battle, and Paul did well on Shawnee. And look, teams go out and they'll try to Kilmare or St. Kieran's did the same last week. They went out and young Leonard did a very good job on Stephen O'Brien, and then you had on Shawnee there as well, Luca Brosnan.
Yeah.
So yeah, they will be targeted, but look, Kilmare, like we said, to Kilmare probably are top 3 club teams in the county, and I just think that it was just a bridge too far from. But not taking it away from Rathmore, intermediate champions, they're still riding the wave of it. They're going to take beating, because they're, like we said last week, they're a solid old team. You have John Moynihan there, who always seems to poke out a goal from somewhere. You have all the Ryans. They have a lot of individual players. Paul Murphy defensively, so they're another team just like Temple who are deservingly so to be in a quarter final, and they'll be a hard nut to crack as well.
And I think if we had in Alan Deneen and Brian Freel as well,
very good fullback,
they have a lot of talent, and they're certainly, but it was a huge win down there, because a lot of people thought going to Kilmare it would be a step too far.
A lot of them guys wore the Kerry jersey as well,
yeah.
Sure, if you had your way, you'd have them all back in with Kerry again, and Rathmore have no team next year. They'll be already the whole lot of them. John Moynihan's goal, absolutely crucial. I think as well, John, looking at the Rathmore side, they played against the wind in the first half. They were able to keep the ball in hand and kind of took down the clock a small bit. They seem to have better game management. Yeah,
but there's a lot of experience in that, Donal. The inter-county sprinkling, but the other players, they're not far off either. They've been there for a bit. They have won intermediate. That confidence that comes from winning.
Yeah. And I think the big thing there as well, John, Rathmore had 8 different scorers. Kilmare had only 3.
Yeah.
What we have to say, the influence of the Ryans.
Yeah.
Mark, Cahill and Shane. Shane Ryan is a revelation out the field, in fairness, and more people are saying, should he be outfield for Kerry?
Will Jack have a decision to make?
That's another day's work, says you. But I think Paul Murphy, his form he's really back to his best. He had a real battle with Johnny Shea, as you said. But like you add in the likes of the Freels and the Deneens and these guys, John Moynihan, they have a very good squad. And Dennis Moynihan is an astute manager. I heard him doing an interview last week, and quietly confident going down there. And then you have to look at it. How many weeks in a row are Kinmare out? Not making an excuse. It does catch up.
It does, yeah.
Jeez, lads, you'll have the whole of Guinea Gwilla ringing into me now in a second. That's Rathmore for the County Championship, so is it? Field Rangers, St. Kieran's. I met Tim Deneen this evening on my way in. Tim's delighted, obviously. He's the thing. He bring on anybody is Tim's message. St. Kieran's have been quietly impressive, John, all the way through. I mean, okay, they were playing Field Rangers. Field Rangers, not the Field Rangers. I suppose there was one Listowel player playing with him yesterday. But that said, they went about their business in a very professional way, St. Kieran's, and they produced a very good result. And they got their 2 draws previously. So they're a quality side.
They're a quality side. A lot of very good players again, Donal. And I was in there yesterday. As you said, from the minute they came on the field for the warm-up, they were organised, they were professional, big squad of players. They all knew what they were doing. the Horns, we could go through that team, the Horns, Morris Hickey, Luca Brosnan, Brian Leonard inside, young Jack McKelligot, Carl Brosnan, Tegbrick worked very hard around the middle, but I think their full forward line, Paul Welsh, Adam Barry and Thomas Lynch, they were outstanding.
They're a danger.
And Derek Keane, Philip O'Connor again, Adam Dunho, there were hand subs then, particularly Niall Collins. He really showed, he had pace when he came on. It was always going to be a Kieran's victory. But I'd have to say, on the other hand, Field Rangers, they could have just thrown in the towel, but they didn't. I thought that Aaron Connor at full-back and Donal Maher, they never gave up. They stayed battling all through. Killian Trent worked seriously hard at midfield.
He's had a very good county championship.
Great county championship.
He really has, and
rangy guy
with him as well.
Yeah, very honest, kept going. And I suppose one of the talking points in the stand yesterday was Cormac Dillon. An exhibition of kicking, to be fair. And Darragh Lynch, a guy that was probably released by Listowel maybe because of his being dogged by injuries, but he had a very impressive 3 points, could have got 2 goals, but you'd have to say that Field Rangers, they went down fighting. They didn't throw in the towel, and limited with subs and that, but no, fair play to them. But St. Kieran's, certainly they lay down a marker. They're a lot of people wouldn't like to draw them in the next round, Liam. Because I think they're decent.
And their management will be very happy because, like John said, their bench, they have a strong bench as well. Because they had a lot of the Ballymac boys on the bench yesterday coming off, and it just strengthens the whole thing. And plus, and we said it 2 weeks ago, when you need the likes of Paul Welsh kind of playing well for teams like this, and Paul seems to be coming back to himself with Adam Barry up front as well, and that's the main thing.
Is this a reason why the group stages is good? We're looking at Cormac Dillon week after week after week and we're saying, there's something there. We're looking at players that we wouldn't mention in one game or 2 games. These lads are producing it week after week in difficult enough circumstances. They're not on winning teams, but they're still cropping up.
Exactly, and this is what our county championship is for. It's a pity that we can't be talking here about, say, Thomas O'Donnell tonight for West Kerry, the Cahill Ferreters, and the Falvies and all these guys who should have been out the weekend with West Kerry, and that's why we kind of need this competition, because they can really put it shows up the lesser club player. Really, this is where they want to play.
And another guy was Barry Mahoney. He was outstanding. They never give up. They stayed going. That's 5 or 6 players around the diamond, around the middle. They worked extremely hard, and that's the shop window, the county championship for these guys to go to the next level.
We'll all hear about them, but at least when we're playing county championship, the whole county can see. Can see.
Question for you. You're going to enjoy this. A little trivial question. Group 4. Okay. Who was? And we'll talk about Group 3 in a second. But I want to jump to Group 4 for a second. What team in Group 4 scored the most? That's a question for you. I'll give you a choice. It was either Dingle or Nagale or Crokes or St. Brendan's. There you go. God, I might have caught you on.
I would say
have a guess. Nagale, good guess. Crokes, good man. Crokes scored the most. Fantastic. Now, who scored more in the county championship? Shannon Rangers or Crokes? Shannon Rangers. Good God, huh? What's that tell you about that tough group? Shannon Rangers now scored 111 yesterday. Not good enough to beat Spa, obviously, who were cantering towards it. Liam, Dan O'Donoghue, we mentioned him in dispatches time and time again. But Keane Murphy popped up with 3-5.
That's right, yeah.
My God, that's some telly for a county championship. That's 14 points on his one.
Yeah, that's a finisher. He's a right finisher, because all the hard work was probably done outside, but at the same time he still had to finish, and he did that. But everyone from Evan Cronin, Shane Cronin centre back. Spa really impressed over the weekend, but the one guy that really impressed me was Dan O'Donoghue, midfield, and he hasn't in the last 3 games. And it goes, I always thought he might make a wing back or a corner back. When you see him playing at number 9 for Spa, there's nothing wrong with him with a warrior like that, because you look at Dublin when they have the likes of Brian Howard, who isn't a very big man either. Maybe this thing of we need big men around the middle of the field, it might dissipate a small bit, and we can be looking at the likes of Dan O'Donoghue and these guys.
He's a great engine.
Absolutely.
Great engine.
And he's hot in form as well. I mean, obviously if you're a warrior team in the morning, he certainly is one of the first in the 15.
And I think on the other side of it, Rob Stack was excellent.
He's under 20, isn't he?
Yeah. Talk to us about Shannon Rangers, because obviously the tournament is over for them as well. They've played 3 games. They were competitive enough, John, to be fair, in different parts of it. They went out, they gave it a go, they tried. They were probably against tougher teams, club teams, and I suppose for district teams it takes too long to gel together to play a club team who played a tough club championship. But what are the positives for Shannon Rangers?
I think the positives, look, as an Arcadian man, I know what's going on there, and Alan Kennelly and Joe Langan, they went about getting a management team. They got in Pat O'Driscoll, thought was a master stroke. If Driscoll gets a few years with those lads, he'll improve them, because he has got the interest going.
Yeah,
it mightn't be shown in the results, but the performances, certainly, the numbers of training.
Yeah.
I think he's set the seed. And I think that, listening to the few lads, Martin Collins and Derek Keane from our own club, they have bought into it. And they're fellas from a smaller club, and I think they all did that. He was unfortunate. I think the Tarbert were in a junior final, and we spoke about this before, that some of the players maybe didn't commit. Very good players, but I think he's started the run.
Yeah.
And I think we can see that they can improve. It wasn't a major improvement, but there's green shoots there.
Yeah.
There's light at the end of the tunnel, and I think that we'll possibly see more from them.
Yeah.
And I think Pat will stay on, and if he does, it's all about organising at that level
and
buying
it's about
into
consistency as well. I mean,
and building an interest.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You do well one year, you need to do better the next year. You need to do a little bit better the year after, and then next year, half the players you had mightn't be with you. You might find new ones. Come here to me. Performance of the week. Even though they didn't win, I definitely think it was Rahilly's against Mid Kerry, Liam. They didn't win, obviously. We're talking about Mid Kerry as possible champions. The stat that jumps off for Rahilly is 15 wides in a game, and you lose by a point against last year's finalists, against one of the favourites for this year.
And no David Moore.
No David Moore. And Tommy Walsh came on towards the back end of the second half. Jack Savage was all over the place.
Yeah.
Really committed to the cause, as you would expect. Is that a positive for Rahilly's, or will they say, God, we really should have got out of this group?
Well, I think they'll take it as a positive, even though they didn't get out of the group, because they have a big game ahead of them in the next couple of weeks against Nagale to stay in the county championship. I think that's going to be a big game for them, and not going to be an easy game for them either, the way Nagale are playing. But yeah, this is a game that they'll probably say, geez, we kicked it away. I was looking at it, and it shows to me as well what Mid Kerry, and I've said it here the very first night, they're just missing that something. They have so many good players.
No, they had no Sean O'Brien yesterday, and we've been marking his card as.
And I think a huge loss to Mid Kerry, and going back to even to last year, is young Killian Dennehy. Kieran Dennehy, sorry. He's
enough with the Curra.
We have the Curra connection, but he's a loss inside in the forward line.
As a scoring forward. Absolutely. Super. David Mangan man the match.
David Mangan, Derek Cleary with his goal again. They still have little green shoots as well around the place, but they just need that little bit of oomph. If they need to push on and be contenders against East.
And things not as bad for Rahilly's as it would seem, because obviously they were in the ball game all the way to the end, apart from give away the goal, and that turned over them. And as I said yesterday, if it was on position and efforts and the whole lot, they would have won. But they didn't win. They lost, and they go out of the championship. And as I said, they have to wait now. With fingers crossed, I presume that Nagale will go on and win the county championship. But otherwise, it'll be the end of it. Group 4, it was obviously another group that was decided. Let's talk about the dead rubber game first, John. Crokes and St. Brendan's. I suppose a disappointing championship for Crokes. I mean, obviously they're not in the quarterfinals, and as a club, that's where they would like to be at the best of times. St. Brendan's looking for maybe a small bit of redemption as well. It was predictable, wasn't it? Crokes.
It was predictable, and Crokes, they'd be disappointed, and I suppose they might look back to their first game against Dingle, which was in the melting pot, and maybe a few mistakes cost them, and ultimately that cost them their place in the quarter final. But look, it was never in doubt against St. Brendan's. It's been a disappointing campaign for Brendan's. It never really got off the ground, and a bit of an improvement from the other two games. I think they only kicked 5 points in each of their two matches, but it was never in doubt. And Crokes will be, they'll be disappointed, but they'll come back, and to Brian Looney, the same guys were Brian Looney, Michael Potson, David Shaw, those guys, they were all impressive. They still have the talent. They're in transition, and they will.
A fair of them. They won the Mulno Cup for about 34,000 times this weekend, and they beat Legion as well. So all the old guys have it. And staying on the Crokes, I want to wish Neil O'Carroll a speedy recovery. Of course, I went off down Friday evening. St Michael's Final were playing Crokes in the Minors C Shield final. We're all excited. We're going to play the mighty Crokes. The game ended after 12 or 15 minutes. Fairly horrific injury in the centre of the field. But listen, the best of luck to Neil O'Carroll, who was only back after injury, but a great little footballer as well. Fantastic midfielder, actually had a great impact on the game. But the very best of luck to him. Dingle and Nagale, the last game, Liam. Again, predictable enough, but the most predictable thing, Paul Ganey.
Exactly. It was a game that was kind of, as I say, a game of two halves, because there was a strong breeze, you could say, blowing down the field from the dressing room side. And I think Nagale had it in the first half. They didn't really make hay with it, that kind of a way. It was 4 points all at half time.
No Stefan.
Yeah, he was tugged out, and he was warming up at times, but no Stefan. So they're looking at the greater picture, I do think. But Paul Ganey and Tom Sullivan really stepped up to the plate.
Tom Sullivan looked really good.
Tom Sullivan looked very impressive again.
He was back scoring again and very comfortable.
Dingle were the normal Dingle. They look very dangerous up front with the Ganeys. One fellow I definitely must mention is young Jack Doyle with Nagale. I thought he had an excellent game again. He stopped two goals, one-on-one goal chances, and he's definitely a guy that I think will make Tomas O'Shea's job very easy. We're picking his under-20s here.
Love Tomas O'Shea's an easy job at all. Come here, listen, we've loads of comments coming in, and we will get to those after this quick break. And you're very welcome back to Terrace Talk here on Monday evening. Donal Barry with Liam and John all dressed up. Of course, we have the county championship at 6:40 or thereabouts. Anyway, we'll get a couple of comments, loads of comments coming in, and we'll fly through some of them as we normally do. And listen, thanks very much for taking time out to send in a comment. I know it's a bit out of your evening, the whole lot, but it's nice to get a WhatsApp or a phone call. We'll start with the good ones, lads. We'll fly through these. Congratulations to the Curra Miners, of course. No, what did I start? On winning the club championship Shield final yesterday versus Skellig Rangers and Valentia. God, you beat this whole Kerry team.
We did, and it was a fantastic game, Donal, because it went into extra time. So credit to both teams. A great game of football. Some fine footballers down in South Kerry. We have fine footballers ourselves, but I was very impressed with a lot of the players that were down your side of the country, Donal.
Portmeageen and Valentia.
I shouldn't say that. Your side, really.
They're on the other side of our country. It's a big country.
I thought we'd go past the bridge in Clogland as you're kind of heading down there.
We're only together for South Kerry. Come here, ask John Kennedy. Is it time for Field Rangers and Shannon Rangers to amalgamate now with North Kerry gone and out? Different teams on 3 different occasions. It's a usual one.
Yeah, I suppose that debate will come up again, Donal, and I suppose there's merit in it. There's no question of doubt. It'll have to be looked at. But if you just look at the St Brendan's, we sat here last year and we were saying with Austin Stacks in the St Brendan's outfit, they take some beating in the county championship, and we all know what happened. So maybe look at the situation, look at the whole thing. I think the whole county championship needs to be looked at, and I certainly personally think that the club finals should be finished before the county senior championship starts. Give a clear runway then for all the teams to prepare, and maybe a week in between that all the district managers would get time with their team, and maybe that extra week, it could mean a lot. Now the interest seems to be there. Field Rangers made a great impact last year. I think Shannon Rangers have improved this year.
Kieran's
making so South Kerry have a very youthful squad. So look, it's something to be looked at. I wouldn't rule anything in or out, Donal, but to me, the easiest solution always is amalgamate, join up. You'll have more. But
less players,
and it certainly needs to be looked at. It has been a big success at underage level for North Kerry, but the other side of it is, and I'm not being negative, how many players will not play championship football then? And that's a question that it all needs to be looked at. With no pressure on, sit down, assess and look and see what is the best for the district.
So one big bus or 2 small good buses?
Two small good buses
to get you there as well. And something that of course we admitted there, of course Owen Judy, obviously we're going back to the Dingle and the Gale game yesterday. Wasn't it great to see him come on the field? First of all, he entered towards the end of the game. Great rapturous applause as well from the club and Dingle as well, and listen, all our thoughts with the Judy family and condolences from the show, of course, back to them all as well. And again, it just shines a light we're talking football, but obviously there's far more important things going on in the world at the best times as well. Now let's get to Donal Barry. Fair play to St. Brendan's players who togged out during the weekend. It's been a difficult campaign for them, but they showed up and took their beating while other districts conceded. Yeah, absolutely. They went for the tree. Donal, the County Championship needs a new vision, or we will, or a lot more games will mean nothing in round 3. I'm disappointed as a West Kerry fan. I'm sure the late Paddy O'Shea would have walked to Waterville to play, and that's probably what it comes down to. We'd probably have brought it into Carsbeen, to be fair, and then just to counter it, and again I suppose you have to balance it. A lot of flack for West Kerry this evening and over the weekend. It was a game that meant nothing for either side, whoever would have won. It's a long journey from West Kerry back to Carsbeen, especially with the bad weather and a lot of expense on players. I think the right decision was made, so there you go. That's another side to the fact. Whether you're standing in the minority or the majority, we don't know, but that it's still an opinion. Is it the County Championship under 12 or Division 5? Yeah, this guy is going down. I suppose he's having a Scud missile attack on poor old West Kerry as well. But look, the reality is we've dealt with it and we moved on. Donal, I missed the show last weekend, but listened to the podcast during the week. I was drawn to the discussion about clubs hosting County Championship games and what it meant to SD and Lisbol, which of course I think is great to see. So therefore, as a Waterville fan, I was very disappointed not to have a game this week. Another for getting under the radar. Yeah, so we'll end that side of it. Now that the group stages are out of the way, hopefully the County Championship will step up to a level. We need to see the Kerry players marking each other, and we need to see the stars of the game actually playing enough of the shadow boxing. I suppose it will get real from here on, lads, won't it? Quarter-final, obviously.
The fun is starting now, Donal. Yeah,
it's real knockout now, isn't it?
It's real knockout now. It's you lose, you're gone home, and that's it. Yeah. So yeah, I
was in Dingle last Saturday and was well impressed at how Dingle performed once again. But Paul Gainey was simply outstanding.
Yeah, he's really having one of those championships again into a real leader.
You could say that for all the county players.
You could.
Very few of them are playing below for him. I think they're leading. And we leave the Cliffords out of it. They just had a cameo appearance yesterday. They've been involved with Fossa and they were given a break, obviously. But the rest of the clubs, you go through Dingle, you go through Rathmore, Kinmare, all the county men are playing well. Jason Foley with Shannon Rangers, they're all putting in the effort. And in fairness, it's been a long season.
Yeah, and the big question is, Donal, is who can we put in with him to improve him? That'll be another discussion. Right. Have we new fellas to put in there?
We have so much to discuss. Well, the next comment really solves one problem. Surely Dan O'Donoghue will be back on the Kerry team next year. He's the most informed player outside of the Kerry panel during this championship. He brings a real edge and a real presence.
Yeah.
You've been singing that for the last...
Exactly, 100%, yeah. And there's a couple of more fellas there as well, that are kind of holding their hand up as well. So
interesting that you mentioned Dan O'Donoghue earlier, of course. I suppose at the start we were thinking cornerback or somewhere along there, but the way he's performing, he could be a far more central player.
He could be, and we've been watching even into county football with the last couple of years now. So our midfielders are getting, they're not getting bigger, but they're getting more athletic, and there's other roles from. And I think Brian Howard really showed that with Dublin this year, in the middle of the field. And I think we can look at that because we have a lot of Dan O'Donoghue's that could do jobs like that. Ronan Buckley is one of those fellas there around the middle of the field as well. So maybe we go down, look down. Not saying anything about Jack Barry and Diarmuid O'Connor.
You need more strength in cover, and
we need cover, and we need options.
And you need options. And the day things don't work out, you need an option. And that's what you do even at under 13 level. Donal, really enjoyed watching the opening round of the championship, the second round where the conditions dominate the games. This weekend every game was a dead duck. Some divisional teams struggle to field games. Is there anything that could be done to help reduce dead rubbers? Maybe round 2 in the group, maybe the winners from round 1 play the winners from round 2. Would love to see suggestions from Liam and John about the format the championship should take going forward. Well, that's interesting that you opened that, PJ, and fair play to you for opening, because I have a couple of ideas today, because I had loads of time today. Myself and David Cronin were discussing the group. What are we going to do? Yes. How about this one? How about seeding the teams, right? First option for seeding teams. So we have 4 groups of 4, no problem. But based on where they finished this year, all the top 4 in the first bowl, the second ones in the second bowl, the third. So the idea is that if you don't move up a bowl, you're going to be against the strong guys every year, because obviously what's happening at the moment is it's an open draw, and obviously you can get a lucky group and get out of the group and the whole lot. So that's the first one, it's grand. Second one, just go back to the old days, simple knockout. with one round for the losers, and let's get back to business. I think Paddy Clifford had something about that. That was his idea. Again, it might go against giving districts a chance and the whole lot. This one, how about this one? Okay, I was really working hard on this.
That's 3 now, Donal.
This is one nobody will agree with, but I'm going to give it anyway. How about introducing the club championship as part of the coin championship this way? Okay, so you play your club championship, and your top 2 teams that get to the semi-final, you play your out and you get your final, the whole lot. But those top 2 teams, so the teams that are in the semi-finals, they go directly into the coin championship. The other 4 teams, because you need to keep playing them obviously, they go into a relegation league and let them play for 3 or 4 weeks, with the bottom team finally being, off you go lads, no, you've had 3 games and you're officially the worst, right? Then put the divisional boards, watch where we're going with this one, into 2 groups, okay, and let the top 2 of them come out at the same time, and all of a sudden you have 4 clubs who are automatically quarter-finalists, and they're the informed clubs, and you have the top 4 divisional boards. So basically the guys that are serious about it will get out surely. And then you just have a quarter-final, semi-final, off you go.
How many games in that, Donal?
Not as many.
That's the biggest
not
problem.
as many
we have
as
so
you,
many games.
Yeah, not as many as you would actually think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I've said this before, Donal. I was invited onto a committee to look at the county championship, because the previous format, there was clubs complaining and divisionals,
Districts not getting a chance.
So a very thorough look at it. We all got, I think there was 7 in the committee under Terence Holan. We all got 3 or 4 clubs to ring and get their ideas, and came in and pulled it. It certainly opened my eyes, because I'll be honest with you, with a lot of people out there, why can't they put the game and have 2 weeks of a break or whatever? The time isn't really there.
The calendar's the killer.
Yes, that's the killer. And in fairness, this is the format that came up with, so you'd have 3 matches.
Now, as a format, I think it's a good format, but obviously when you see last year 1 game not going ahead, well, it did go ahead, but I mean, a bit of shadow boxing in the backfield somewhere. This year we've had a team who just didn't feel in the last game, and there were a couple of dead rubbers, and even to be fair to dead rubbers, I'd imagine the teams weren't as strong at the round 3 as they were in round 1.
And we're going to have more of that, Donal, because this generation of footballer, just like your listener said, Paddy Shea would have walked to Waterville. They won't. They won't drive to Waterville. So this generation of footballer, and when you have so much football in the last, like, you're flogging the same players the whole time. So I think it's less games. We'll have to look at it with less games. But then,
one other thing as well, there's no relegation from the senior championship.
Yeah.
You know,
Jesus, don't be relegated.
How can you bring? But it would make the dead rubber games then more competitive, because you're fighting for your survival. But how do you do it? How do you bring somebody up? I'm not so sure. But it's something that a few people yesterday now in the stall after the game were just discussing. If you had to fight to stay in the senior championship, because there was another team coming up, or you would play off against them, it would mean that there'd be no walkovers, and that the games with no consequence, then suddenly they meant something.
So you're saying that the relegation of the senior championship should be on the senior championship, not the club championship.
The club championship.
Not the club championship, which is a good point, yeah. To know, so your club. But I don't think the clubs are the problem. It's the districts. The districts, really, and I won't say a problem, but it's trying to get them organised.
They find it difficult, and then I suppose it shines the light on how difficult it is to run a district. I mean, with the best will in the world, the chairman and the secretary and the PRO, they do their best to get things out. And
then you have the field rangers manager trying to look after Listowel. You have the St. Kieran's manager trying to look after Ballymac, and you have the Shannon. You have all these managers,
which is very valid for them, because they want to go to Club Park.
And I think all this comes down to is that our club championship is so strong. In the last couple of years, that it's really putting pressure on the senior championship.
Well, look, we'll turn back to the coin championship, and of course we are at the quarter-final stage, and we will be bringing you the draw in the next couple of minutes. A couple of things jumped out at me at the quarter-finals. John Kennedy, you're a smart man. I won't ask you, William, because
I'm going away.
You won't write it down. 8 teams obviously qualified for the quarterfinals last year. How many of those 8 teams are back in the quarterfinal this year? Don't count on your fingers now, off the top of your head.
Good question.
It is a good question, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
How many? I'll give you the number. 4. So half money made it back. So that tells you it's exceptionally competitive, even to get back. Well, we're getting back to the finals, but get back to the quarterfinals. No, stay with me. I did a lot of homework. I did no work at all today. Totally apologies to all them on. Let's go back a year. How many of those 4 in the quarterfinal were there the previous year? Of those 4 now, not the 8. How many of those 4 were actually there the previous year?
2.
Good man. Fair play to you.
East Kerry and Dingle.
Totally wrong.
Totally wrong.
Totally wrong. But good anyway. That was a guess, obviously. So
East Kerry and Dingle.
Wrong again. Will you stop guessing? Okay. Now, how many of those two were there the previous year?
One.
Good man. Who?
East Kerry.
Totally wrong. Who were they?
East Kerry and Dingle were in the quarter-final last year, weren't they?
East Kerry were knocked out by Stacks 1 year. You forgot all about it, boys. So take East Kerry off the board, okay? Temple No is your answer. Temple No have been in the last 4 quarter-finals. Quarter-final. They haven't made it to the semi-final. But by the fact that you didn't know, and when I asked about 10 people today, they didn't guess it right either, it really shows that their work is going under the radar and how they can still survive and get to a quarter-final. And obviously after...
And they were in a club final as well in one of those years.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go, Temple No. Fair play to you. I hope Pat Spillane puts that in his book. After the break, we will be looking at East Kerry. There you go. They're in this quarter-final. It's okay, Lee. Mid Kerry, Dingle, Rathmore, Temple No, Spa, St. Cairns will take anybody at all, and Nagale, who are in their first quarter-final. And of course, it's nice to see Rathmore back as well. Who was last time Rathmore in a quarter-final? God almighty, questions, huh?
That's a while.
All those Rathmore people will know it was 2017. Who beat them? So Kerry, obviously, because that's how I know it. Who's the leading scorer for Rathmore that day? In 2017, leading scorer for Rathmore. Shane Ryan. Good guess. Shane Ryan scored 5 points. Unbelievable. He was still there. We think Shane Ryan only came on the scene. Go back to 2016, of course, and they beat Mid Kerry in the quarter-final. And who scored the last-minute goal? Have a guess. Shane Ryan.
So it's coming to Shane Ryan.
So Shane Ryan's been out
If Jack is listening out there, Donal is putting a lot of pressure on for Shane Ryan.
Shane Ryan, for your next Kerry full forward. You heard it here in Terrace Talk. We'll take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll have the county championship draw. And of course, we're talking about the county championship draw, which is great. Yep, that's super. And we're joined by John O'Dowd. If everything's falling apart there, Liam, will you stop pulling wires and all that kind of crap?
I didn't touch anything.
Good stuff. John, good evening. Thanks for joining us. Obviously, you've got a little bit of word of the county championship quarter-final draw. There's a lot of counties in that, John. Rathmore and Spa, Mid Kerry and Nagale, East Kerry and St. Cairns, Dingle and Temple No. John Dowd, what's your pick of those?
Good evening, Donal. Good evening, lads. I was saying last night, before the draw was even made, that one of the 3 big guns in the competition, East Kerry, Dingle and Mid Kerry, one of them was going to get the real banana skin in the quarter-final, and the banana skin is most definitely St. Kieran's. And it's East Kerry who've got that banana skin now, and most certainly, especially after what happened in 2020, which I heard you mentioning before the news, St. Kieran's were not far off causing a huge upset that day, and having seen them twice in the last 3 weeks, they're going to be a severe test of East Kerry's current credentials.
Mm-hmm. In many ways, though, did the other two dodge that bullet? Because East Kerry, you would imagine, would have the clientele or the players available to handle that, even though they will be severely questioned.
Yeah, a very interesting thing about East Kerry, Donal, and I was only going through it there a while ago. Of the team that started last year's county championship final victory over Mid Kerry, only 7 of those players have started in any of their games so far this season. Jerry O'Sullivan has used his panel absolutely, you'd have to say brilliantly, over the last 3 weeks, increasing the depth of his squad. If I give it, there have been 15 new starters for East Kerry in their 3 matches. I'll quickly run through them. Brian Kelly, Darragh O'Callaghan, Owen Fitzgerald, Donal O'Sullivan Down, Patrick Darcy, Owen O'Sullivan, Luke Crowley, Emmett O'Shea, Cian Lynch, Matt Rennie, Niall Donoghue, Chris O'Leary, Rob Lean, Killian O'Sullivan and Kieran Murphy. All of them have got experience over the last 3 weeks of starting county championship games. When you consider that the Clifford brothers have only played 5 minutes, the likes of Rory Murphy, Chris O'Donoghue and others haven't played any minutes at all yet. It's magnificent what Jerry O'Sullivan has been able to do, and I suppose you're only able to do it if you have that depth in your squad.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And of course it's not easy as a manager, having to do that as well, because obviously they're all quite talented players, and as you said, if you have 15 extra on top of the 7 that you had last year, it's about rotating them in a fashion that they're all still at the table, they're all still excited, they all know there's a part to play, and they all kind of know as well that Paddy and David are going to be the first two on the next 15 as well. So, I mean, there's probably a little bit of pressure on him, but by rotating so well, he's given them all a taste for it. And, of course, he's building into the future as well, obviously.
Yeah, and you look at players even in Paddy and David's positions over the last couple of weeks, like Emmett O'Shea has done really well inside the full forward line. Patrick Darcy has done really well at centre forward. Matt Rennie out around the middle of the field, half forward line as well. And like you say, some of these players know that while they might be starting the first 3 games, they might not be starting for the rest of the competition. But what Jerry O'Sullivan and his selectors do know now is that when called upon, he has extra depth which he might not have expected to have or might not have believed that he had. And that can only be a bonus for East Kerry, because they are going for a 4th title in 5 seasons, and you can only do that as well if you're freshening up the squad every year as you go along. Obviously, they've lost Shane Ryan and Paul Murphy to Rathmore. There are a few other players injured at the moment, and whether they'll be involved in the competition like James O'Donoghue and Jonathan Lyon, we don't even know about that yet. So Jerry O'Sullivan will certainly be very pleased.
Absolutely. It's interesting that you mentioned that, because when Spa left the group with East Kerry, they took 9 players with him that were involved in that first East Kerry win. Rathmore have gone since with him as well, and both of those come face to face against each other. One the All-Ireland Intermediate champions, and Spa, who kind of unfairly due to COVID didn't get a chance to kind of travel that journey as well. But both of these will fancy a spot in the semi-final.
Yeah, without a doubt, Rathmore and Spa are the 2 happiest teams tonight in the whole draw, because Rathmore knew, I suppose, last night, having got that brilliant victory down in Kenmare, that they would top the group, and they knew then straight away that they were going to avoid the 3 big guns in Mid-Kerry, East Kerry and Dingle. But Spa didn't. They knew they were going to avoid Mid-Kerry from being in the same group, but they could easily have been drawn against East Kerry or Dingle. And both of these sides will be delighted to be playing in each other. They will feel it's a total 50-50 match, and they will have great aspirations of getting to minimum now a semi-final.
Yeah, which will be absolutely huge for both clubs, of course, and Rathmore, of course. If you think about it, they're even though in our heads they're still a senior team of Yonks, and years ago they're the newly promoted intermediate team. Another newly promoted intermediate team, the Gale, last year. This is their second full year at senior. Obviously they have to deal with that relegation playoff, but they found a bit of form in the county championship, and they certainly won't fear Mid-Kerry.
Yeah, Nagale you'd have to say, Donal, they've absolutely brilliantly resurrected their season. The senior club championship didn't go well for them. They could well be still having to play a relegation playoff later in the season against Kearns O'Reilly's, the match that nobody wants to be involved in. Obviously, they'd have to go to the county final or try and get to the county final to avoid that. But since Stefan O'Connor has come back into the team after the injury that ruined his inter-county season, he seems to have been a catalyst for their return to form. Now, he didn't play against Dingle on Saturday back in Dingle, and I think that was a smart move by the Nagale management, because he got two full games under his belt after a long period out of the game, and it was good that they were able to rest him last Saturday and have him on full tilt for 2 weeks' time. Damien Burke and Jack Doyle in particular, 2 defenders, have been absolutely exceptional, and they were the same against Dingle the weekend, marking 2 of the most informed players in the county at the moment in Conor Gainey and Dylan Gainey. I suppose the small problem for Nagale is up front. You do feel that they don't have the attacking firepower. They definitely need Dan Goggin to get fully fit from his recent injury as well. And in fairness to them, the great credit is due to Nagale. It was a difficult period for the club over the weekend following the untimely passing of the father of Owen Doody, the former captain. And I think what sums up the county championship the best was Owen Doody coming onto the field about 10 minutes into the second half in Dingle on Saturday. The same afternoon that in the morning was his father's funeral, and the reaction from the crowd, the rapturous applause, the pat on the back from the Dingle man Brian Devan, who was marking him. It just showed you that community and life and death and everything, while we love sport, they are the real most important things. Absolutely,
fine words. Mid-Kerry, I mean, last year's finalists, as I said, they've been in 4 finals. They've lost them all since 2008. They kind of, they're a hard team to gauge. I mean, they've done well. They have lots of players, but they're not really putting teams away. And is there still kind of a little question mark over them?
Yeah, most certainly. I seen them 2 weeks ago against Shannon Rangers, and they didn't really impress that day. And by all accounts, they haven't clicked into full gear either against Spa or against Cairns O'Reilly's over the weekend. The thing is, though, they have a really good, strong panel. They have the experience of being in a couple of finals over the last, I think 2 finals in the last 4 seasons, something like that.
Yeah.
Kieran Dennehy remains on the injured list at the moment, one of the unluckiest players in the county this season, a fantastic young talent, missed out on the All-Ireland Under-20 campaign for Kerry, might well have been the difference in that All-Ireland semi-final against Sligo up in Pearse Stadium earlier in the year. He's injured again. They'll definitely need him back. At the same time, they do have 3 of the most promising youngsters at the moment in Killian Burke, Sean O'Brien and Keith Evans. Young Sean Coffey in goals is getting better and better. Then you have the leadership from the likes of Mike Brean, Pa Kilkenny, Ian O'Connor and a few others. And a young lad who's done really well in the last couple of weeks is from Lawn Rangers, Dara Cleary. He's really impressed in attack. The question is about them. They're capable of beating Nagale. They beat them in the group stages last year. They're capable of getting to a semi-final. They may be capable of getting to a final again. But what is the missing link that would get them over the line against an East Kerry? Have they found that? I'm very unsure still.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, they'll certainly be searching for it, and they have that game with Nagale, of course, which will test their credentials big time. If a club team were to win the championship, everybody out there says it's going to be Dingle. It can be Dingle. It has to be Dingle. Funnily enough, Dingle haven't won it since 1948. I mean, it's amazing, and they won 6 by that stage. Can Dingle win the county championship?
You'd have to say that they can. They were the team, I suppose, Donal, that frightened the life out of East Kerry the most last season on that wet day in the semi-final, where it took that wonder point from Paul Murphy from about 60 metres to get the champions over the line. And on current form, great credit is due to Dingle and to Kenmare Shamrocks, who've unfortunately bowed out. They've played 8 weekends in a row. That is pretty phenomenal by any standards. And the question is, should any team have to be playing 8 weekends in a row? And that's a topic that needs to be discussed most definitely at this moment in time. But Dingle have navigated their way through superbly. They won the senior championship. They've got through these last 3 weeks. I was particularly impressed by them against what they did against St. Brendan's 2 weeks ago. John Kennedy was there with me that day as well. They took a leaf out of the East Kerry playbook. They could have played Mark O'Connor, they could have played Paul Ganey that day, but they looked at the bigger picture. They looked at the overload one of these players has had in Australia, one has had with his involvement with Kerry. They took the sensible decision. They trusted their squad. They got through the game. They won the game. Barry Dan is still on the injured list. Whether he's back for 2 weeks' time remains to be seen. Mark O'Connor undoubtedly probably will be. And Paul Ganey in particular seems to be a man on a mission at the moment. He's the captain of the team. I watched him on Saturday. He had missed the previous week, came back last week, was the best player on the field. They have fierce momentum. They have everyone working as a unit. They have good strength and depth. They have a very solid defence. They have some impressive attackers. They're solid around the middle of the field. They will take beating for sure.
God almighty, I hope there's nobody listening below in Temple in it, because they might as well stay at home.
I wouldn't write off Temple on the slightest, Donal, because like you said, and I didn't even realise that myself, you said they were the only team who've been in the last 8 of the competition for 4 years in a row. What Temple they have a unity, they have a spirit, they have a collective. It probably comes from the small size of the parish. They don't have the biggest pick of players, but what they do have is some exceptional leaders in the Spillans, Tyg Morley, etc. But stalwarts who've been playing for the club for a long time. Your Sean Sheehans and your Stephen O'Sullivans. You've all the Crowleys. You've Patrick Clifford, a very, very promising player who always seems to play well. Young Mark Casey inside and cornerback. They've won 2 of their games this year by a point, and they really put it up to East Kerry for most of the game yesterday. Dingle will get nothing soft off Temple, but at the same time, you still would have to fancy the Westerners to beat them.
Absolutely, there we go. Listen, John, thanks very much for giving us all that this evening. As I said, I can't wait.
Before I go, Donal, just a small interesting thing. I presume you'll tease it out with the lads. Just whenever the county board are deciding their fixtures for 2 weeks' time, obviously there could be games on Saturday the 14th and there could be games on Sunday the 15th. The probability is that Ireland and New Zealand will be 8 p.m. in the Rugby World Cup quarter-final on the Saturday night. And I think from a county board point of view, we want more people going to the games. It's fair to say that there hasn't been big crowds at the first 3 rounds of the group stages, which was probably only natural after 6 weeks of club action. But you want your crowds coming to the games. The matches will already be live on Clubber, but at the same time, you want to get your customers in the seats in Austin Stack Park, in Fitzgerald Stadium. So avoiding clashing with Ireland, New Zealand at 8 p.m. on a Saturday night has to make common sense for the powers that be.
It seems to be a rabbit hole that we've gone down before, John, isn't it? Soccer World Cups and the whole lot. But absolutely, I mean, at the end of the day, people are going to vote by where they're going to go. And I suppose you can't really compete. I mean, and the whole country is behind Ireland wanting to win the World Cup at the same stage. And then again, a lot of players obviously will probably want to watch it as well. It's a very interesting question and one that we will tease out with the boys after this break. Hello, welcome back to Terrace. Of course, we're talking about the Senior County Championship. Of course, the quarter-final draws were made there earlier. A couple more comments coming in. Best of luck to Pat Spillane Senior with the launch of his book in his brother's Tom's Pub in Temple next Saturday evening, and that's Dermot and Margaret Ann down there in Two Sis, who I'm nearly sure will be up there getting the book signed and autographed. As far as I know, Joe Bradley's coming down to launch that as well, which is fantastic. Hi Donal, Shane Ryan's the best forward in Kerry this year. How did Jack not play him in the forwards for the last 15 minutes in the All-Ireland final? If you would want, we would have Sam now. Well, I suppose a crystal ball is a great thing to be looking into later in the year. And talking about crystal balls, Bridie from Killarney is looking into her crystal ball there for me. Take a good look at the cups on view there, Donal, as South Kerry won't be winning them for a decade. So how long? Well, at least, Bridie, we can wait a decade for it. I suppose it'll be nice when it comes around again. And hi, Donal, interesting quarter-final draws. A step closer to a Nice Kerry Dingle final, says Charles. And how are we getting on there this evening, Charles? Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, absolutely. That seems to be what most people are kind of looking for, but you know what, there's a lot of games there before we get there. Rathmore and Spa, as a club man, you must be hugely excited.
Oh, you'll be very. I think
if you were a Rathmore man, if you were a Spa man, if you were a player in the management, the whole lot, you're looking not at winning the final, but you're looking at a chance of progressing to another round.
This is a chance to get to a county semi-final, you know. So it's, if I was a Rathmore or a Spa man, you'd really be excited about this game. And like we said earlier, I think this is a game that both teams will fancy their chances. You know, there's a lot of good players on both sides. They won't fear each other, so it's going to be all in the day who comes with their game faces, and it's going to be a humdinger of a game. It's the one that's really. But I know down about East Kerry and St. Kieran is standing out. But this game for me, it really hit me standing out as well.
John, will the fact that they know each other so well add or subtract from it? Normally when you know your neighbour so well, you kind of maybe go into a bit of a defensive mode and you know who you're marking and all that, and you can kind of overthink as many plans you have. Or will this be just a shootout?
I think it could be a shootout, Donald. You know, it's not a Dunhook Cup. It's not intermediate. It's Senior County Championship. And, you know, I was in Spa Saturday evening. You know, they have a lot of talent. Dara Moynihan leading by example. His form is good at the moment.
And his brother Timmy in the other side.
Timmy's having a good season.
Timmy's having a good season,
Eddie Keane Murphy, he got about 3-5. You know,
and Owen Fitzgerald, the fullback.
Fitzgerald, we mentioned Dan Dunho already. These guys are, you know, an injury to Mike Stam Dunho. He went off after getting a point early on. You know, hopefully for him, it's a big day for the club now. To be great to see him back playing. And Rathmore, look, we've spoken about them.
Liam has half them on the Kerry team for next year.
They're actually on the crest of a wave. They're going really well. And down to Kinmare to win in a winner-take-all game. It's one thing to go down and win.
There's great momentum coming off that win.
Exactly.
You're going
like we said, players, we know about the Ryans, but like the Brian Field, Brendan O'Keefe's and these guys, like, you know, they are real Rathmore, you know, clubmen, and they're. But this is going to be a very interesting quarter final.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of Rathmore men and women, of course.
And
we'll have the sleeves rolled up looking for that game. Mid-Kerry and the Gales, very interesting. Last year, one of the highlights at the end of our show was Nagale winning their first county championship game. They'd lost the first two and they went down to West Kerry and they beat West Kerry below in West Kerry, and it was nice. And I was saying they progressed really well from there to be in a quarter final. And a Mid-Kerry team, to be fair, maybe haven't found their firepower yet.
Yeah, and I think, look, realistically, if you're the Nagale management team, you're probably saying we'd be great if we could avoid East Kerry and Dingle, you know, and we'd have a go at the other two. And I think they won't fear me, Kerry. And like
Well, they'll have seen what their neighbours rallies done yesterday.
Exactly. So there'll be no fear there. The only slight hookup I have with Nigel is where they're going to get their scores from. I think that is a big problem that they have. They rely a lot on Diarmuid O'Connor going forward and what a man for to be relying on. But I do think when it comes into the latter stages of these competitions, you just need more than one or two players. And I think that's the one thing that will hamper them a small bit. Whereas Mick Kerry on the other side, even though they haven't lit any fires or anything yet,
they haven't been pushing a lot.
No, they haven't been lighting fires or making us all very excited. But they're solid. They're solid. But this is a game where Mick Kerry will have to come in very wary.
Yeah. Will this be advantage Mick Kerry in the sense that they've been on this journey before, John? They've been in a quarter-final, they know how to win semi-final, they can get to finals, which is huge. They've been to 2 finals in the last 3 years. Unfortunately, met East Kerry, I suppose. Most teams will come a cropper there. Is that experience now?
The experience will count, but they're expected to win. Whereas Nigel,
is that more pressure then?
I think so. If we were told there 2 or 3 months ago that Nigel would be in the draw tonight, we'd say, look, with the way they went through the club championship,
they're in bonus territory.
They're in bonus territory. Yeah. Their big men will have to play well. This could be the game of 2 defences. Yeah. Because both defences are strong.
Yeah, they have Nigel have a good defensive structure.
They have a good defence. They have, yeah. And I think there's a real club effect about them. There's a feel-good factor, and they're on the crest of a wave at the moment. They're in bonus territory. Yeah, it could be one. Mid Kerry haven't performed to their ability, and they'll have to do it to beat them.
And Stefan will probably be back for this, so yeah, that'll boost Nigel as well.
Yeah.
Talk
about coming back, the 2 Cliffords, of course, coming back for East Kerry. John O'Dowd, very interestingly, they're mentioning the amount of extra players that East Kerry have had. Yeah. Of course, we have kind of touched on, we were talking about the Patrick Darcys of the world and all these Luke Crowleys cropping up along the place. St. Cairns is probably the most difficult task that they will get out of those 4, looking at them on paper. And St. Cairns, they got their 2 draws, they got their win, they're in form. Ballymac are flying as the club in Division 1. Obviously they have plenty of Desmonds, and they have Cordell and Scarton and Knock and the whole Brosnan and Adam thrown in as well. And they've always been a team.
They're a ton in the side.
They probably haven't done as good as they should have done for what they have and the quality of players they had. And you can throw in Philip O'Connor and Kerry Jr. and Sean Ogue and Goal and the whole lot. Will they have the sleeves really rolled up for this one crack at East Kerry?
Oh yeah, this is mouth-watering really. And I think someone said it.
Would this be 88?
Well, it could be, yeah. And I heard someone say during the week that the best time to meet East Kerry would be in a quarter-final.
Yeah.
And it probably is, so I think they'll have, like you said, they'll have the jerseys folded up.
Is it a good time to play the Clifford who haven't played so long?
Yeah, they're only going to be coming back into a new system.
Yeah.
And Cairns are gradually getting better, and I think it's great credit to their management team, because like John said at the start of the show, they were very professional looking the last day, even in the warm up and stuff like that, and that's very important for district teams. You try to build a club culture, and I think they're after doing that, and of course winning and not getting beaten games kind of gathers that momentum anyway as well. And I said it 2 weeks ago, they need likes of Paul Welsh and these fellas playing well, and he seems to be coming into form now a small bit. He did, yeah. Adam Barry, you have Luca Brosnan, you have Brian Leonard in defensively who soldered up, and then you have the 2 Horns as well. So they've a lot of guys there that have worn the Kerry jersey at some level down along the line. Philip O'Connor, Sean Ogue, and then you have the Ballymac contingent who are on a high at the moment. And Cairns, things are on the up for Cairns, and I think John Dowd put it a good way. This is a banana skin for East Kerry.
So Cairns by how much?
I think we'll sneak it by a point. My father won't like that. No.
one sneaky point. Yeah, exactly. He'll be out of a job, out of retirement. The last game, club game, as I said earlier, everybody says if a club team are to do it, it should be Dingle. They push East Kerry all the way there. They're playing a Temple team who, as I said, and none of you kind of knew it at the start, have the most form, I suppose, over the last number of years getting here. They haven't pushed back the next level. Dingle's a hard ask for them, though, isn't it?
It's a tough one. Dingle would be, they're one of the favourites to win the championship. Their form is, they're doing what they have to do. They're club champions. Paul Gainey is on fire. All the Gainies, Tom O'Sullivan. They're really, Mark O'Connor is in the mix as well. So look, they're a quality club side, but they're coming up against a really consistent Temple and
a lot of inter-county footballers.
Playing with confidence. And even they were beaten the weekend, they still performed. it's a difficult one for them. Dingle will be favourites to get through, but they'll know they've been in a game with Temple now. Adrian Spillane, how his injuries could be crucial
decision,
to the end result.
Absolutely. Well, look, guys, thanks very much. We have to leave it there. I suppose we better give you next week off. We were saying that you're wrecked after an hour and a half of work this evening. That's Liam and John Kennedy. I suppose they're resident panellists now at this stage. And of course, all evening we've been talking about the Garveys Super Value Senior County Championship. You know the draw now at this stage for the quarterfinals. And you can take next week off and get out and support the team, like John O'Dowd said. And it'll be very interesting, of course, to see how that plays out with Ireland and New Zealand and the County Championship draw going ahead as well. I'm sure they'll sit down and take that into the calendar. Now, one thing that's in the calendar at the moment is basketball. Round 1, of course, of the Super League and the National League has just got underway. And after a break, we'll be checking in with our friends over there in St. Paul's when I catch up with Brian Clark.